To begin, what I'd like to do is start off with a demo that basically fully implements the slides that I just showed you. So this first one here is how to draw that triangle that I showed you. Before I get into the code though, there is one thing that I do want to make sure I mention right up front. And that is, here's this page here, 01 lines basics.html. You'll notice that it's running through a web server. And if I take a look at that very same page and look at it just through the file system by double clicking on the file and allowing it to open up in the default browser, you'll notice that nothing is rendered here. And that's because writing to the canvas will throw JavaScript errors when you do it outside the context of a web server. So for all of the examples, I'm running everything through a web server context, and that's necessary in order to be able to successfully use and manipulate the canvas. So let's take a look at the code that it takes in order to draw this triangle. Now again, some of this will be pretty familiar, but let's start at the top so you get the entire view of what's involved here. So obviously I'm using the doc type for HTML5. I've given just a little bit of style. I put a border around the canvas, and there's nothing special to that. The only thing to point out here is that canvas is an element like any other element, and you can give it a size, you can apply borders to it, you can give it a background. Basically, you have the same types of flexibility for styling the canvas element as you would anything else. That only applies to its dimensions and its border. Obviously, you can't use CSS to write directly into the canvas though. I am bringing in jQuery just so that I can handle the ready event of the page. So here, when the page is loaded and ready, then I'm doing document.getElementById, and I'm looking for the drawing surface. Now down here, I have my canvas with an ID of drawing surface, and you'll notice I have some fallback content here to display to the user in case the canvas is not supported within the browser. Back up at the script, once I have an instance of that canvas, then what I can do is take a look at the canvas and find out if the browser supports getContext. This will be the way that I'll know whether or not canvas is truly supported. I might be able to do a getElementById and come back with some sort of reference, but if getContext, if that API is not available within the browser, then I know that I cannot use the context. So in this case, if getContext returns true, then I know I can go ahead and call it below, and then I say canvas.getContext, and now I have my drawing context. The interesting thing to note here, and if you saw the first module that discussed the different JavaScript APIs that are available within HTML5, we're passing in this token of 2D. Now this little string here is necessary and required, and it's also the only value that's acceptable right now. But this hints at the fact that there may be a 3D drawing context coming at some point. And in fact, I've heard some rumors of some browser makers working on some very early versions of 3D drawing contexts. So for right now, we use 2D. And then here's the code that you saw within the slides. So once we have our drawing context, we can begin path. Then we can move to the starting position within the grid, which happens to be X value of 75 and Y value of 50. From there, we can give the instructions to draw a line to 75, 100, give the instructions to draw yet another line to 25, 100, and then once we're done, and when I say fill, what that does is that we'll connect the ending point to the starting point and then fill the shape with the selected color. And right now the default is just black. So when we run this code, we get this output.